Ben, restoring Britain, it's on the way.
Well, apparently, yes. We talked about Restore Britain quite a lot, and we will continue to do so. There you go. Rupert Lowe wants you to restore Britain. Before I get into this, I'll just say there's a really interesting kind of picture that they've used there. It's obviously a mashup of Kitchener and Obama. Kitchener, who invented the concentration camp and recruited millions to die in the trenches of World War I, and Obama, who invaded 7 countries and bragged about killing people with Predator drones, and they decided to use that.
To merge it.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that. Anyway, last week I talked about this organisation. This is Wild Kingdom, and they appeared out of Wild East, which is based in Norfolk, and it's run by that guy, Hugh Somerleyton, who is Deputy Lieutenant, not Lieutenant. I got picked up on that, so I'm very American. Deputy Lieutenant of the County of Norfolk, and his big boss is this lady, Pippa Dannett, who is the Lord Lieutenant of Norfolk, who's the patron of the Norfolk Community Foundation, which has been closely linked in the past to Common Purpose. And I said, given that Rupert Lowe is farming in Norfolk and he's an MP for Norfolk, does he have anything to say about this? And I was pulled up on this quite rightly, because actually Rupert Lowe isn't farming in Norfolk at all. He's on the other side of the country, just outside of Cheltenham, which, interestingly, is just over 4 hours away from Great Yarmouth, from his constituency. So the first thing I'll say is mea culpa, I got that wrong. So apologies for misleading you. Wasn't my intention whatsoever. But this does actually open, it doesn't really undermine the message, because it actually opens up a bunch of other conversations for me, questions for me. The first one being is, how can you be an effective MP in a constituency that you are literally the other side of the country from?
An interesting question. I'd say to you, many years ago, we had the leader of Cornwall County Council who lived somewhere up in Newcastle, and they flew down and did their job in the week and then flew back out of the horrible county to go home.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
And surely there's an issue there in terms of your understanding of the local people and your ability to get your arms around the job, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And actually, I'm reminded of this quote from G.K. Chesterton. What we should try to do is make politics as local as possible. Keep the politicians near enough to kick them. The villagers who met under the village tree could also hang their politicians to the tree. It's terrible to contemplate how few politicians are hanged.
We can't condone that in any way.
No, certainly not. No. This was another time, another world.
Another dimension.
But, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But, I think the question has to be asked, how can you do that job if you're on the other side of the country? It strikes me that would be rather difficult to do, particularly with all the other stuff that Mr. Lowe's got going on, as we'll get into. The other point about the report that I made last week is that actually that Wild Kingdom thing, although it is originally based in Norfolk, it is part of a national network, and it's linked into this thing, which is Rewilding Britain, which is operative in Gloucestershire, and they've actually got a whole bunch of projects going, including this, which is about ecosystem and natural capital mapping. It's not your landscape, it's not nature anymore, Brian, it's natural capital. And they've been examining it, mapping it from space. So there's this map that you can go and look at. We'll provide links to all this. You can go and see it, and you can look at, this is just Gloucestershire, but obviously they've done the whole of the country. And importantly, this is going on globally as well. They've actually got the infrastructure now to remotely analyse, to view, to assess all human settlements and natural assets, as they like to call them, anywhere on Earth. And that's been going on for quite some time. So whether you realise it or not, your house, your, whatever it is that whatever asset you might have, has probably been indexed in some way and sits in a database somewhere with a carbon rating attached to it. And lo and behold, that little blue circle you can see in the middle of the colourful kind of hodgepodge that is Gloucestershire there on the diagram. If we zoom into that, that is Rupert Lowe's farm. So he's right down in the mix there. And you can see, using the colour coding, that his farm is high priority for rewilding, which strikes me he should be interested in.
Maybe he just doesn't know this stuff.
Do you reckon?
Well, it's possible, isn't it? Because we've seen politicians before amazingly ignorant of policies that are beginning to swirl around them. So we could say he doesn't know, or he does know, but he's going to pretend he doesn't know. Either way, it's up to the Restore team, the people on the ground supporting Restore, to ask him what he's going to do about this.
Yeah, I think that those questions definitely need to be asked. Luckily, he's not actually farming the land. Right, this was quite a thing to find out, given he's really gone into bat presenting himself as a farmer. He actually runs it, 550 acres, as a horse training centre. They breed, train, trade racehorses. And he's got a top Irish trainer, Fergal O'Brien, who runs this. And this is all on Rupert Lowe's land, and they feed cakes to the horses, and it's all lovely, and it's quite an entertaining video, this, actually. I'll put a link to the website, you can go and watch it. So he's sort of presenting himself as a farmer, but then doesn't appear to be completely on top of the issues relating to what's happening around farming, even in his own area. And actually, but also he's not farming, he's running a horse racing setup, which I'm sure Basil will be very excited about. He likes a
Wasn't there a
flutter.
famous quote by somebody who said, "Let them eat cake"?
Yes, there was. Marie Antoinette. Yeah, do you think we're heading towards another revolution?
Well, we had a very wealthy elite, and they didn't know the difference between bread and cake prices.
Yeah.
But it's cakes for the horses.
It's cakes for the horses, quite exactly. So I think this is interesting. You know, I've lifted the rock up and I'm digging around, and it strikes me that some of the things that have been communicated about Rupert Lowe are very different to what the actual reality is, and I don't understand why that's happening. It feels like you should probably be a bit more transparent. Another important thing to note is that the Community Foundation network, I mentioned Norfolk Community Foundation earlier, that's actually part of a national network which is centred around UK community foundations. There are 47 of these across the country, including, importantly, in Gloucestershire, just to route this back to Mr. Lowe. And you can see the Gloucestershire Community Foundation, which is run by a bunch of lovely ladies, including this one. This is Dame Janet Trotter, OBE, DBE, CVO, who herself was former Lord Lieutenant of Gloucestershire from 2010 to 2018. So there's a pattern recurring here, right? We're routing this right into essentially the court, right? This is the top tiers of the British establishment out in the counties across the country. And these foundations appear to be, well, first of all, we know that they're linked into common purpose, at least in some sense, but they're also explicitly aligned to the UN Sustainable Development Agenda. So here we can see the Suffolk Community Foundation, where they have an entire page on SDGs, and the chief executive says community foundations across the UK, so not just his, all of them, or a large number of them, are embracing the adoption of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to not only complement our grant-making activity, but to support our operational culture. This is globalism.
Yeah.
This is the global dictatorship being disseminated down through the system into this area that I had never come across before, actually. We talk a lot about what's going on politically. We talk a lot about what's going on with corporations. We do touch on what charitable foundations are doing, particularly the bigger ones like your open societies and that kind of thing. But these local foundations, one in basically every county around the UK, which are completely interlinked with, and probably I would say indistinguishable from the royal apparatus in the country, are absolutely driving this agenda forward and appear to be linked into all of these issues around rewilding and the transformation of our food system, which poses extraordinary national security issues, right? Because we don't come anywhere near being able to feed ourselves at the moment. So why are we going to rewild when we should be farming, you know?
Yeah, lots of questions, but this is new politics. This is what politics really looks like.
Yeah.
Westminster, absolute theatre. This is real politics. This is how society, individuals, families are going to be controlled.
Yeah, exactly. Final thing I will just flag up about Mr. Lowe, which is that actually a lot of his wealth seems to come from this company, Lowe and Oliver, which is an electrical and mechanical contracting business. It's been in the family for about 100 years. They work across lots of different sectors, museums, residential, education, and it looks like it was a really good company, actually. Clearly very well run, well accredited, good business. And by the way, I have no issue with people being successful business people. I'm not like that. You know, my background was working in industry, and I see no issue with this at all. No issue with people being wealthy. The question is, what are you doing with that money? And, well, also, how did you get it? But, you know, also, how are you behaving when you do have it? But importantly, this organisation, Lowe and Oliver, if we scroll down right to the bottom of the website, we can see that it operates by royal appointment.
Yeah, which is quite an accolade for people to obtain that. So
exactly, yes. So again, Mr. Lowe appears to be talking a good game on a lot of nationalist issues. He's got a lot of excitement, a lot of members coming into the party, but he's very closely connected into the cities we talked about last week, but also into the royal networks. And as we talk about ad infinitum on UK Column, King Charles, the Windsors, more broadly, as well as many other elite international families, are the ones calling the shots in the transformation of our societies at the moment. I suppose the question,
in environmental matters.
And particularly as it relates to environmental matters, yeah. So, again, questions to be asked.